I think that a good way to set a premise about what we are talking today is to talk about typing. Essentially, however we look at that, we have been typing our thoughts into their digital form pretty much the same since the invention of the typewriter. So if we take the most advanced, sophisticated laptop, we still need to type everything manually, word by word, letter by letter. And I think the interesting question to ask about it is it okay that this is the current situation? And I think that there are two answers to that question. First of all, numerically speaking, typing is fairly inefficient. We waste 30 workdays a year just on typing. And by saying we, I mean the average person. We have mechanical errors because we need to use this physical device called the keyboard. So we miss or we hit the wrong keys on some percentage or 8% of the time. And long sessions of typing lead to some form of wrist pain in the long term. So if we look at the numbers, they are not saying that typing is a good habit to preserve. But there is an even deeper explanation to it. And this is the way that our mind works. So pretty much we think very fast. We think at a rate of 2,000 words per minute, which is, again, I think fairly fast. And this is why, as I'm talking to you right now, I think each and every one of you is like, thinking on whatever they want because they can do it while I'm speaking because you're much faster than my ability to speak. And so we look at this data point, and then we look at the average typing speed, which is 40 words per minute. It essentially means that while we are typing, our brain is essentially stuck at a huge traffic jam. And I think that for, let's say, the most of us, when we think about sitting on our PC for 2 hours typing something, I think the adjectives to describe it is usually mundane, boring, or other kind of adjectives which are not that positive. And this is because we are in this traffic jam, and we are used to that because there was no other alternative. And I think that this is a good segue to talk about our vision, even before our product, which is type at the speed of your mind, or to allow you to type as close as you can to the native speech in which you form thoughts. By the way, regardless if you are visually impaired or not, or have any other, condition, it's just getting closer to the native speed of our mind, and it's far faster than typing, however we see it. And so this brings us to what Lightkey is. Lightkey is a personalized writing assistant. And when I talk about personalized, the meaning of that is that you can imagine a person sitting beside you on your PC and just, observing whatever you're doing on your machine. Like how do you write your emails? How do you write your documents? What topics are you writing about? And over time, let's say like in day one, this assistant or this person wouldn't have any clue what you're going to write. But as time goes by, this assistant will gain more confidence because he can understand like your unique style of writing emails, what kind of email you're writing to what kind of recipient. And like over time, it will be able to predict even full sentences. And this is exactly what Lightkey does in a very localized way, because this is an offline solution. Lightkey essentially learns your unique style. It doesn't try to enforce anything. It doesn't try to like replace like as we are used to in the mobile phone. And after it gains confidence on your specific writing style, it will provide longer and longer predictions over time until it will be able to predict full sentences. And I will show that in a live demo as well. I think the next aspect of what Lightkey is a tool that it understands our intent, even if we are misspelling or writing something wrong, in an innovative or unique way. So if we look at all the existing tools out there, let's say Grammarly, or let's say the Office 365, like word corrections, they are built on the same assumption, which is you write something, then you get highlights of what kind of words are incorrect, and then you need to stop whatever you're doing, go back to the incorrect input, consider the various options to correct these words, and then move forward. And essentially, for people that have dyslexia or any other conditions which make them type incorrect words frequently, they constantly need to do this back and forth dynamic. Write something, see that something is incorrect, go back, consider various correction options, and then go forward. And I think that nowadays, more than ever, our basic sense of focus is so much challenged and distracted, where the slightest excuse to leave whatever we're trying to achieve when we write our document or our email is like yet another excuse to find ourselves half an hour later, scrolling to the infinity in our favorite social network. And so we designed a new experience in which even if you're writing your input incorrectly, you can still keep on moving forward. And I, of course, demonstrate that as well. Next is that Lightkey was trained not just to meet a specific content domain, such as emails or professional documents. It was trained on all subjects, or let's say the most common and popular subjects, from technology, academia, healthcare, and much more, law, legal, etc. I think more importantly, it is able to use its baseline to understand what kind of topics are you writing about, let's say a niche area in the healthcare world or some other topic. And lastly is that you are not the product in any shape or form. Lightkey does not collect the user content, and it doesn't submit the user content to the cloud. You can pull the plug from the internet and essentially go to a remote island and get 100% of what Lightkey services, and that would work smoothly. So that was very important for us from the outset. The only thing that gets submitted is numerical-based data. For example, if in Gmail, when writing in Spanish, we have 70% accuracy for one of our language models, this helps us to understand that we need to invest more resources using publicly available data and not customary data to improve Spanish support in Gmail. And this is an opt-out, so you can just you are one click away to just block this numbers being submitted as well. So, but in terms of content, metadata, everything in this neighborhood, nothing gets submitted to the cloud whatsoever. And this is, by the way, why we are trusted and installed in government organizations, financial institutions, and passed any like regulation or cybersecurity test that was applied to us. Okay, in terms of what apps are supported in Lightkey, it supports the desktop version of Microsoft Office from Office 2010 onwards, and essentially every app on Chromium-based browser, which is Google Chrome and Microsoft Edge. And the only caveat for that is Google Docs, which we are working hard to add support, hopefully soon. But it's a rather complex project. Google doesn't want integration with Google Docs for their own reasons, so they are making it a bit difficult. But other than that, any app like Gmail or any email app, collaboration apps, WhatsApp, the web version, Slack, CRMs, social media websites, everything is supported in Lightkey. Okay, so this is just the introduction about what Lightkey is. If you have any question, feel free to ask in the chat. I don't see currently any questions, so I will just jump right into the virtual machine. of Lightkey. So just to understand, Steve, help me just to realize how the majority of people in the audience are visually impaired. So I'm trying to understand whether it will be effective to demonstrate Lightkey without the read aloud feature.
There's definitely a few people who are visually impaired in here.
Okay, got it. Okay, so what I will do is start off without the read aloud and quickly activate that. So we would have both modes in the demonstration, because some of the things I will demonstrate with read aloud will be a bit let's say challenging in terms of like waiting for the read aloud, because I'm going to demonstrate full sentence prediction. So apologies, I will explain what is going on the screen as I'm showing it. So what I have is a machine with an empty installation of Lightkey, so no prior learning of the user. It's like the first day of our assistant friend sitting beside us and trying to learn our patterns. So what I will do is just to write a sentence and show you how predictions are being offered on the screen. So as you can see, and I will explain, Lightkey supports inline predictions. So it's not like a multi-choice interface. You have only one prediction at a time, which naturally sits in the continuation or the visual continuation of the text. And to accept a prediction, all I need to do is to hit the tab key. And as I'm writing the first sentence for the first time, Lightkey is fairly conservative in its predictions. It predicts 3 characters, 5 characters. Sometimes it doesn't give any prediction at all. And the reason is because it doesn't have any prior knowledge of my typing patterns or typing habits. And by the way, if I don't want a prediction, I can just ignore it. I keep on writing. And if I want it, I just accept it using tab. And so as I wrote this first sentence, I want to show you what will happen as I'm writing the same sentence again. So what will happen is that I will get longer and more meaningful predictions by providing much less input on my end, as I, in most words, need to type only the first character. And that would be enough for Lightkey to understand what comes next, because it has the previous sentence as context. And if I were to do that again, I'm getting 6 or 7 words ahead, and sometimes full words as I'm typing them. And finally, if I write the same sentence for the 4th time, I'm getting the full sentence as one big prediction. And this is, of course, not to say that you need to write every sentence 4 times, God forbid. It's not the point, quite the opposite. But it's trying to convey that in natural real-life usage, as we will write the same email phrases or email sentences or names, phone numbers, people's names, whatever phrases or expressions we tend to repeat in our own unique style, Lightkey will pick them up and gain more confidence about their, in this context, for this recipient, this is the sentence you are using more frequently, and it will offer that sentence as it will gain confidence about it. And so I think in that sense, this is just a fast-forward example to show that in a tailored way. But in natural usage, you will get longer predictions as Lightkey will be able to lock in your typing patterns. So that's the purpose of that demonstration. Now, I think that over time, we are working on Lightkey for 7 years now. We got many feedback that essentially say, it's very nice that Lightkey learns from my patterns, but what I actually want is to be able to take my existing knowledge and instantly apply it into Lightkey. For example, I'm a doctor. I want to take all my prescriptions or patient analysis and just paste it into the software in a simple way and get my existing vocabulary, phrases, or even sentences predicted on the screen instantly. So we actually developed a nice feature for that. If I open Lightkey's dashboard, what I need to do, I have, for example, a folder that contains a list of files, just Word documents, but it can be also presentations, Excel spreadsheets, and other textual formats. And just drag this folder into the UI and import that as new category, which is the default option button here. And in a few seconds, we will see on the bottom right corner of the screen that there is an indication that says the prediction model is being rebuilt, which naturally takes about 15 seconds. And if I will just open a random document, let's say this one, and scroll to a random location, let's say this sentence which says the idea is to expand Lightkey means of communications, and just to try and write this sentence in my blank document, what will happen is that essentially I will get the full sentence from my existing content offered on the screen of in my new document. And you can imagine how much time it can save when you have your existing knowledge base and you want to just apply it to the software and not just learn teaching it everything from scratch. So we are essentially, and this is the limit of Lightkey. Lightkey can predict up to 18 words, including punctuations. But typing a few keystrokes and then hitting tab for 18 words ahead is a fairly productive experience. So I think that's the next aspect of what Lightkey provides in terms of its prediction. And I think now it's a good place to stop and activate read aloud for the visually impaired. So apologies that I hope that my explanation so far was helpful. But what I want to show is that essentially, if you can just ignore for a moment this detailed menu, when you install Lightkey Cat Edition, which is the edition that Steve has, you have this wizard. And essentially and this is, by the way, this wizard and Lightkey's installation is screen reader friendly, supports all the JAWS, NVDA, Windows Narrator. But essentially what it asks is, once you select your prediction key, which again, tab is highly recommended, it asks you a sequence of questions. First is to target color blindness. Then it's to target visual impairment, which essentially activate the read aloud feature. So I will answer that with a yes. Then it will target physical typing difficulties. And finally, dyslexia, which again, I haven't showed Lightkey corrections yet, because I want to show them demonstrate them with read aloud. But essentially, it optimizes Lightkey's prediction experience, and you will see the visual experience, the auditory experience, the algorithmic experience. Everything in Lightkey will be optimized based on the questions we answered with a yes. And finally, we can review all the settings that will be impacted in the final menu. And that once we accept them, we essentially now optimized Lightkey for the conditions we selected. So now I've actually selected everything, but it doesn't matter what the important thing is to demonstrate the visual impairment feature, or in other words, the read aloud feature. So let me just, for the sake of example, go back and go just to regular typing without the import content. So because it will offer us very long sentences, which we'll need to wait and listen to the read aloud to be active. I see. Yeah, I see a question here. Are the predictions voiced as you are typing if you are using a screen reader? And if yes, this seems annoying because you need to slow down to listen, read the predictions, and then choose them. Okay, thank you, Diana, for the question. That's a great question. So in Lightkey, essentially, when you activate visual impairment, what happens is that Lightkey provides only the predictions it see as meaningful to the user, and you can control the speed in which the read aloud feature works. So essentially, and I sat down with some people who are completely blind just to watch how they work. And I saw that, first of all, they are optimizing their settings to have a very fast read aloud in the other settings. And also, like, you're right, completely right, Diana, the dynamic of considering or listening to the predictions must be worthwhile versus, the manual pace in which we can type them. So I think, again, this is rather subjective, but we tried our best to make it worthwhile to the user, especially in the long term, because the more you use Lightkey, the better Lightkey understands your patterns and predicts longer phrases. But just to give you an example of how it works, the basics. So as I'm typing, when Lightkey has a prediction to offer, it reads aloud the prediction. So hopefully you heard that. And because I also checked the color blindness option, you can see that the prediction is colored differently. And only when you have like a meaningful example of. So the prediction was the example of, and so again, I can hit tab. And this is the general idea of how read aloud feature works. We just type, we hear the rest of, let's say, multi-words ahead, or let's say a long word, let's say the aforementioned. And so again, in that case, it is helpful. Yeah.
I think you need to share your computer audio through your screen share. We're hearing it through your speakers, but it's not coming through this as it would on your if you had it shared through Zoom's share options.
I'm not sure I know how to do that, but let me just turn on the volume here and just type, and you can just hear it as I'm typing. So okay. Hopefully that will be more helpful.
Example of.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Me know.
Okay, so as I'm typing, we can hear the rest of the words that are being predicted. And again, once you have this tolerance, because I think that, and this is, by the way, regardless, we saw that all across the board and different industries and different sectors, because typing is a deeply rooted habit, regardless of how good Lightkey is, it takes a while to just shift this habit a little bit and let Lightkey take away some of the mechanics, because we are so deeply used to the way that we type. And so I think, and again, I think the common denominator all across industries that we saw that if you if you are able to deal with this small bump, this even, let's say, downgrading productivity to some extent, just getting used to this tabbing and typing experience, then you hit it off and the experience is much more productive. So again, there is a shift in habit, but I think, and that was the beginning of my presentation, that the argument is that it's not a habit that we want to maintain in the long term, from any angle, however we see it, productivity, health, etc. So, and again, all I've shown you so far are the way the Lightkey provide predictions, but I think that now it will be also interesting to show you how Lightkey provide corrections. So essentially, we worked really hard throughout the years to create an experience in which you, to some extent, don't even invest resources into pronunciation. You just trust that Lightkey will understand your intention and take it away from there. So just to give you a personal example, I'm not a native English speaker. As you see, it's like 9 p.m. at evening on my side. It was a long night for me as well. So you can see my CPU or my thinking speed is now heavily reduced, so apologies. But as a non-native English speaker, there are some words that I'm having very difficulties to pronunciate. For example, bureaucracy. And if I will even be on the sharpest time of my day, I don't have any clue on how to pronunciate bureaucracy in English because it's too much complicated, too many characters in a word. And so with Lightkey is just again sharing my personal experience. If I will write something like I don't like and then throw something, okay?
Bureaucracy.
And this is, by the way that read aloud differentiates between corrections and predictions. Corrections are in female voice and predictions are in male voice. There are no, we decide to go with this path just following what we saw as an interesting best practices. There are no other intentions behind this choice. But I think that if you saw, I throw something, I can do another one.
Barricade.
But
Bureaucracy.
And again, it's different misspellings each time, and yet Lightkey understands the intent and is able to provide the word that I wanted to pronunciate. But let's say that I missed that for some reason. I keep on typing, and
bureaucracy in Mississippi.
And I wrote my second nemesis, which is Mississippi. And what happens is that as I'm moving forward in my typing two missed or incorrect words, Lightkey actually picks up all the incorrect words and in one shot predicts, and in the read aloud does that as well, what is the correct form. And with one tab, I can fix my input and just keep on moving forward. So there is no need to go back and fix our typos. We can just keep on moving forward, which is, again, the exact experience we wanted to create. And so this is for misspelled words. We have many other types of corrections. For example, if we do typos, so sometimes as I'm not looking at the keywords as I'm typing, so sometimes I'm one place to the left in all the keys. So instead of typing the L key, I want to write the word Lightkey, for example. So instead of typing on the L, I'm writing K. Instead of doing I, I'm doing U, which are the adjacent keys for these kind of situations. And instead of G, I'm doing an F, and so forth and so on. I'm doing all the possible mistakes when I'm trying to write Lightkey. And again, we are getting Lightkey as a prediction, although 100% of the keystrokes were mistyped. So again, this is a very, I think, extreme example, but it conveys the point that Lightkey takes the keyboard layout into account as it tries to compute what was your intent. So that's another example. And we did recently, actually, the same thing for grammar corrections as well. So if I will write instead of Lightkey, I will do, instead of doesn't, I will write don't. So
doesn't.
And instead of collects, I will write collect.
Doesn't collect.
Yeah, sorry, collects. And then let's say it's
doesn't collect its.
And let's say users.
It doesn't collect its users. Doesn't collect its users' content.
So you can see that I'm doing a mix of, or let's say, I will explain. Now I've written a mix of grammar and spelling mistakes in the sentence. I've used incorrect grammar for don't, for collects, and for content. I've wrote it incorrectly. And again, Lightkey follows me all the way, and with one tab key, I can correct the entire sentence and keep on moving forward. So again, I think that this feature by itself is very powerful for people who want this extra protection layer without going backward constantly and fixing their input. So I think that that is a fairly productive feature to have. I think that this is, in a nutshell, what Lightkey is. There is a dashboard for Lightkey, which again, this core dashboard with all the statistics is screen reader friendly. So you can actually use a screen reader and get a hold of your statistics. For example, in our demonstration, we saved almost 5 minutes. And again, this is a very short demo. You can only imagine how much time you can save, over longer periods of usage. We saved about 400 keystrokes, or let's say 394. We corrected 2 words. We have this typing speed, etc., etc. So again, this is a fairly useful dashboard. We also have a way to dig deeper. If I will click on one of the metrics, we can investigate them in a specific app across different time frame in a specific language. And speaking of languages, Lightkey supports 85 languages. And I think for Canada, French is, I think, very relevant, except for English, but also Spanish, Arabic, and I think any other Latin languages. The only exceptions are Japanese and Chinese, which are a bit more complex in their internal dynamics because they don't have spaces between words and so forth. Essentially, what Lightkey does is it matches its settings based on what Windows settings do you have for. So let's say if you want to add French for Lightkey, you need to go to Windows language preferences and just add French as a language. So I think that's this part, and I think that if I don't see any other questions, I can talk a little bit deeper on the accessibility settings. So again, any questions so far? Okay. So, but again, feel free to barge in and ask whatever you want. So what I will do is just, again, switch on to a different machine, which I don't have Lightkey installed, and show you the installation experience. So basically, Lightkey's installation is fairly simple. You just click on install, and it does all the heavy lifting. When it is being installed, you are being offered to install Lightkey's Chrome extension, which again is just installed from the Chrome Web Store, which is the standard way to install Chrome extension nowadays. Lastly, let's just skip this step for a moment, but it's fairly simple. We jump into the wizard that I've explained, which I just want to get a little bit deeper into the explanation. So again, once we confirm that we want the tab key to accept predictions, as I've explained, we target 3 main conditions: color blindness and visual impairment, which is one category, and physical typing difficulties, which essentially means that Lightkey will offer more predictions at a little bit cost of accuracy, because people who has physical typing difficulties, the cost of generating a keystroke is higher over the cost of considering an incorrect prediction on the screen. Again, there are small changes to the algorithm, nothing revolutionary, but it makes a difference for these kind of users. And in this mode, essentially, Lightkey tries to offer more predictions, even with a little bit less confidence, but it saves more keystrokes for people who are having physical difficulties. And for dyslexia, what Lightkey does is essentially tries and be more conservative while learning the user's vocabulary. So let's say that you're writing people's names, project names, or other unique identifiers for your own vocabulary. So in that sense, if you toggle the dyslexia setting on, Lightkey will require you to repeat yourself several times in a consistent way to make sure that this person name is pronounced correctly. So again, it makes it a little bit more conservative, adapting new words to its vocabulary.